Hello and welcome to the How to Watch Football podcast. This is episode 4. I'm Grant McKenzie and I'm joined by Greg Gordon. And we're also joined by a very special guest, our first guest on the How to Watch Football podcast, all the way from the United States. We've got John Roach. He's the Partizan Richmond FC manager and the co-owner of Prep for Pro programme over in the United States. John, it's great to have you with us. Thanks for being our first guest on the podcast.
Thanks, Grant. Very excited to be talking to you guys this morning for the States.
Excellent.
Yeah, so I've been over in America since I came over at the age of 19 and went through the college ranks, played a little bit professionally over here. And over the years, I've been lucky enough to meet a lot of very good ex-footballers, guys who are still in the game. And we decided to put a programme together to try and help the American players navigate the football market. As you know, the game over here has come a long way in the last 10 to 15 years. 20 years since MLS has been around, and they're still maturing, but there's definitely a gap over here in helping young professional players make it into the professional market, giving them an understanding of what it's like to be a player that they see on the television every Saturday, but also helping them find their way into that business. So we put a programme together. It's a development programme which will help give them some of the insight into the games on and off the field. We're going to introduce them to some very high-level coaches, some guys who are still very much involved on the front end of the house today, some current managers, some first-team coaches, and then give them the tools to try and help them get where they need to be based on their potential. So it's everything really from soup to nuts. We'll develop them as a player, we'll give them the off-field education, and then more importantly, introduce them to the players, the people and the players in the game that will help them get where they need to be.
So this is Greg. This is Greg here, John. But the question I would ask is, so what are the specific problems that American players perhaps face as kids relative to, say, players from Europe or from the United Kingdom?
So the paradigm's a little bit different over here, Greg. I don't know if you know this, but they do transfers in the MLS. There's no money changes hands.
Right, okay.
They basically trade players, and there's reasons for that dating back to the early colonial times. But the other side of the house is the paradigm's very different. The football game over here is very much fee for service, Greg. So if anybody's a young boy in Scotland who's listening to this, they understand what it's like to have the old guy with a jacket sitting at the side of the field, watching the players. And if you're good enough, you get selected to go and train with Hearts, Dundee, whoever it is, and it doesn't cost you anything, right? So generally it's a volunteer who is help get sponsorship to get your uniforms and that. Whereas in the States, it's very much fee for service. What happens is the players pay to play on a team, and if you're selected, you pay to go to the next level, whatever that is.
Yes.
So it's very much if you've got the money, it's very much who you know, and there's no real, and they're still building this, no real pyramid. So the professional clubs in most instances are starting to have their own youth development. But the youth development isn't really as controlled and aligned as we've got in Britain, right? So I came through Celtic's under-16s. You wouldn't really have that over here. It's not really at that point. So the players aren't introduced to the clubs at an early age. There's a disconnect and very much between the youth system and the professional system. And then in the middle, you've got the college ranks, which they're still trying to assimilate as well.
This is what I can't really put all that bit together. Can you maybe talk about a player at different ages, sort of say 12 years old, 14, 16, whereabout they would be in the system at various ages?
Yeah, so what you would have is you would have your club system over here, which is a privately run organisation, which is a fee for service. So they'll hire coaches. Coaches will come in. The players at the young age groups will pay a fee. That'll be their registration and their club fees for the season, and that takes into account whatever league they're playing in. They'll do that up until they get to a certain age. Usually it's about 16, 17 and 18. Now what we've started to see is some of the professional clubs start to try and sign players, but generally that's frowned upon, and most parents won't go for it. Greg, what will happen is the player will be doing his studies and playing in high school, and what he'll do is get himself a college scholarship. So there's an amateur gap in the middle. So the boy up to the age he'll play club football, and then he'll go to college for 4 years, Greg, maybe 5, depending on how quickly he gets out. So he's still amateur status, which is run by a different body, which is the NCAA, the National College Athletic Association. So it's still amateur status. The guy really won't get out of college till he's 21, 22, Greg. And then it's a case of he goes into a draft system where, they go in and they do a massive combine and there's like 200-300 players. They've all been identified. The boys are drafted out. Clubs get to pick, very much like you've seen with the basketball, where,
yes,
gets this draft, this club's. So think of it this way. This is a funny part. The boy's coming out of college, going to play his first professional, trying to get into his first professional season. It's very much based on who he knows, right? And that valuation of his draft is based on maybe how he's done with his statistics over the last 3 or 4 years. But very rarely do you have the same sort of identification process that you've got, that we have in Britain, where the boy's identified at an early age and already in the club system.
So there's two questions that come from that. Would you find that you'd get MLS coaches, MLS scouts rather, scouting college players on a regular basis? And secondly, does this mean that you've got 21-year-old boys trying to get first team games for the first time, having never ever played at a professional level at a professional club?
Yeah, that's the gap, right? So the question on the table for you at the age of 16, if you're in Scotland, just to give you a parody, is at 16 years old, they used to have the YTS, right? So the decision you made was the club offers you a YTS. Do you stay at school and get your hires, or do you go and try and play football for 2 years?
Yes.
Right? Same thing happens over here. The boy leaves high school at 18, and if he's really that good and he's been identified, somebody's spotted him. Greg, it's not usually because of the scouting system, mate. It's probably because, the football community is really small. So you'll have certain coaches who know certain people within the professional game, and it'll be like the old boys network, right?
Right.
So that's the way that works. So, he's making a decision at 18. Do I go and get my 4-year education, or do I try and play professional football? Go on.
Sorry, with certain kind of boys clubs or amateur clubs, I'm not even sure if I'm using the correct terminology here, would they have affiliations to MLS teams further up the chain, or first division teams, or through the coaches that they have?
Right. Yeah, so that's what started now. Now they're starting to solidify the pyramid. So I'll give you a great example. One of the teams down the road, who's managed by a friend of mine, Colin Clark, North Carolina FC, used to be called Carolina Railhawks. They have their own youth system. Now, what happens with that paradigm is, because it's fee for service, the youth system generally funds part of the professional game.
Right, so, I see.
Yeah, so it's I don't want to say it's a pyramid scheme, but you'll have 2,000 players all paying 150, right, or whatever the fee is. That money is then broken up between the professional club and then, of course, the boys' club entity. And remember, the girls' game's very strong over here as well, Greg, so you're doubling that size. Make sense?
Right, okay. Yes. So I'm guessing that then means that we're not really looking at a meritocracy at all. We're looking at strength in numbers and a lot of poor players funding the progress of the best 1 or 2 in each year group. Would that be correct?
You got it. So what happens is they try and have this system, and they put the academy system in place, Greg, because what they realised is if you've got 5 boys clubs in an area, the players would follow the coaches, right? The professional game isn't mature enough yet. We've had a lot of clubs, and you've seen a lot of clubs come and go. We've seen a lot of leagues come and go, guys, right? So the big thing was that the MLS is trying to put the pyramid together. Klinsmann was really charging down that path under the USSF. So people were starting leagues. They weren't starting clubs, they were starting leagues, because the league is the piece that needs to be strong enough. So you'd see a lot of players, like you said, a lot of Hispanic players, a lot of ethnic players that can't afford the fee. And this country's kind of weird, because it's the only country I know that the better you are, the more you have to pay, right? Because you're talking about America being a continent, so it's not like you get in the car and go to East Fife. You know what I mean? Sometimes they're having these kids pay $2,000 to play in tournaments on the west coast of the United States, which will take them 5 hours by plane to get there. Yes. So it's really expensive. So you see a lot of the players who have natural talent slipping through the nets. So that's
is there no kind of support network for very talented people from underprivileged backgrounds, or with poor educational attainment, or literally just a lack of ready cash?
Yeah, so let me give you an example. Do you remember Freddie Adu?
Yes, we do remember Freddie Adu.
I'm glad somebody does, because America seems to have forgotten him. But at 15 years old, he was in Northern Virginia. And he was one of the kids. So when you talk about that, he was kind of underprivileged. He had a coach that basically footed the bill for him, because he knew the kid was good. but you need somebody who's a benefactor at that point, Greg, because if you can't afford it, what are you going to do? And at some point, people will pay the money up until the point that it's not worth it for them. And that's the other part of the paradigm, Greg. That's the other piece that gets missed. It's not about the player development. In some instances, it starts to become about the money, and it starts to become about return on investment. And we've got a lot of very wonderful people in the United States who do things to help people. But when you think of football, which is our game, there's that mission passion, just because they've got basketball, American football, they've got soccer, they've got tennis. The American market is saturated with sports for kids at a young age. Everybody's looking for the money, and they're all competing with each other. So the person who gets missed is the kid.
So where do you come in? What part of the missing piece of the jigsaw is that Pretford Pro can provide here?
So there's two portions, right? I'm obviously a Scottish guy, as you can tell by my accent, who played in Scotland up until the age of 19, and then came over to the States. Now, when I came over 20 plus years ago now, we didn't have a support network. The reason I got over here is because my manager at the time at Celtic, he knew people over here. We actually played exhibition games over in the States long before these multi-million pound games were played. It was the young boys that went across to create the goodwill and energise the American market for the clubs. And I got the opportunity to come to the States and do a scholarship. So I went through that whole. I come in as a player who's played back home. Come in, did my 4 years in college, and then what now, Greg? Yep. So I actually went back to Scotland and played with Thistle for a wee while with Murdo MacLeod, and then decided to come back over here and try and play again. Right? There was nobody bridging that for me, Greg. There was nobody who was here to catch me when I was in college, nobody to walk me through it, and then nobody to help me when I get out of college in the back end. Now, I was fortunate that I had a former US national head coach as my coach at college, but not everybody's that way, Greg.
So what college were you at, John, when you
Robert Morris University. Right. They actually had a guy fly over from Wake Forest to take a look at me. But again, I didn't know America, Greg. My college was a private business school in Pittsburgh, where if I'd had my choice of colleges and I knew better, I'd have probably picked one that was a little bit more conducive for me, if that makes sense.
Right, I see.
So that's where you've seen that.
Because it sounds like an absolute nightmare. It's like, it is literally a different country and literally a different continent when it comes to football.
So
it sounds like it's so different.
Let me give you a laugh. I'll tell you a story, right? So I had been wearing shirts and ties and suits since the age of 14, right? Played with Motherwell, came through the youth ranks at Motherwell with Anthony Smith, Marvin Wilson, Brian McLaughlin. At Celtic, I played with Brian again, played with Alan Johnston. I played with all these guys that were making it in the programme, and I'd been wearing a shirt and tie to go to games since 14. So I get on the flight to come over to the States, and I think I'm going to sign basically for 4 years a contract that sees me play for a college, which I'm equating the professional ranks. So I get on the plane with my shirt and tie, and I fly over with 2 suitcases, and I went from Glasgow to London, London to Boston, Boston, Detroit, Detroit to Pittsburgh. 17 hours because it was the cheapest way to get there. I get off the plane at Pittsburgh, and there's nobody there. And I'm expecting to see people and shake hands. There's nobody there. I get in at 8 o'clock at night, and there's nobody there. A guy with sandals meets me. And that was a reality check for me. Our training fields were less than standard. It was a half baseball diamond with a soccer field on top. So it shows you where we started the game. This is a Division 1 college programme, so it was the top end. We ended up being 17th in the nation by the time I finished, and we played in the national tournaments. But at the end of the day, it was still a progression, Greg. So coming over here, not being able to navigate, not being able to put myself in the picture of what I was used to back in Scotland, either from a game perspective or a university perspective, was daunting. I could make one till a week because that's all I could afford, and there was nobody handing me money. So, you get to the point there's a support network that's needed to try and translate for those players that are coming over, help them settle, help them understand and translate the market as it is here, as it is abroad, and then put them in contact with people, Greg, so that they can actually make a life for themselves should they choose to stay after the 4 years are up. So that's one for pro program.
So if someone does a college program now, what can they expect to allow them to sustain themselves while they're doing that?
The college system set up just now is a little bit more. It's conducive now because it's been going, and with the the American market understanding soccer, it's not really a second sport anymore. So there's opportunities for the guys to coach. When you come over on a soccer scholarship, I think you can work for, I think it's 13 hours you can get. So you can get yourself a wee part-time job. The chances are there's been some players who have been trailblazers before. So, when you come in, people will understand how to help you. They'll give you that go around of where things are and what they sit. This is your supermarket. This is where you go for your dinners. This is people who'll travel, help you with a car. All those little bits and pieces that help make it a better place to settle. And then the other thing is football is mainstream, so you can equate in that fashion. So be able to support yourself from a coaching perspective, understand your studies, but now you'll start to see that bridge towards the professional ranks that maybe wasn't there 10, 15 years ago.
And that's what you're really doing then. That's where you come in.
Yes, so when the guy comes into college, everything's piecemeal, Grant. So you're very much a player for the youth ranks. Like I said, that 12-year-old through 18 is very much associated with his club because he's paying to be part of that club. But when he's finished at 18 years old, there's nothing. He either goes to college or he does something else. They're done with you though, because you've paid your fee for service and we can't help you anymore. That's why we started Partizan Richmond. So that's you done there. Your high school career is over because you're 18, you've graduated. So either you go to college or you don't. When you go to college, you're a scholarship player. You're a scholarship player for 4 years. So you're very much associated with that university or college for the 4 years that you're there. And then when you're done with you in your 4 years, what do? When I graduated college, I broke my ankle my senior year and my scholarship was up. So I played basically my senior year with a broken ankle. When I was done on my last game, they put me through they gave me the operation to fix my ankle. But when I was done, Greg. I wasn't on the soccer team anymore. I couldn't train with them. I finished up my studies, so it was thanks for coming. There's your 4 years. Go home. And
right.
that was a big gap for me because then I don't know what I'm doing, Greg. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So you came back to Scotland, but then what brought you back to the United States again? What was the process?
So what had happened was I had graduated and I was still injured. I had actually been drafted in the States to go and play, and I actually went back to get rehab. Celtic Park, Brian Scott took me in. I knew Scotty from my time at Celtic. He took me in and rehabbed me, and then obviously the connection there. The manager was Murdo MacLeod at Thistle and Gordon Chisholm. I knew Chizzy, so I went in and I did some training at Thistle. I went through 6 months there. And then basically my coach got the Tampa Bay Mutiny head coach job with Carlos Valderrama and Ravanelli and all those guys. And he brought me back over to the States. So I came back over here. I signed a pay-for-play contract with the Richmond Kickers with Dennis Bylett, the old Manchester United manager.
Yes.
Over here. Well, not manager, but player. And I came over here, and that's what brought me back. So my again, prep for pro, my next step was to set myself back into the professional ranks, and I went to go play indoor soccer at the time with the Harrisburg Heat, and I tried to do the whole indoor-outdoor thing, and it just didn't work, Greg. I had no support network. Came back over here. I ended up basically being a nomad in the game, following a little bit of money around, and then just eventually just quitting and using my 4-year degree at the age of 23, 24. And that's when I kept at the top level of amateur, but I realised I was going to make more money out of just having a real full-time job and playing on the weekends.
Yes.
Now that's the other thing to consider. There is no part-time over here. So that's something else to think about. There's no part-time football.
So any player that goes to the United States is going to chase a full-time professional dream or nothing, or amateur football. Yeah,
I mean, there's no part-time. I mean, you'll get, they still have various types of football, which is quote-unquote paid. Like I said, there's the indoor leagues. The indoor leagues have been around for a very long period of time. But again, it's teams come and teams go. So you'll probably have a team like I have in Richmond, the Richmond Kickers, who are a professional team. But if you take a look at the salaries, the money's, it's only for 6 months because they don't play a full season, Greg, right?
Yes.
So they don't go, the 10, 11 months that we go, they only play for 6 months. So for the other 6 months, you're either a camp coach working with kids, or you go and play indoor or go play somewhere else where the season is different. So it's very much a kind of nomadic lifestyle. A lot of the American players have dreams of playing in Europe because, again, it's the established game. It's what they've grown up watching on the television, and it's that dream. that most have had, you know, to go and be an American player playing in Europe. And we've seen some success. Mark Pulisic is a good one. I played with his dad. Christian Pulisic is actually the player. His father, Mark Pulisic, played with me indoor at the Harrisburg Heat, and his son's made it big in Germany.
Yes, he's at Dortmund, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's at Dortmund. Nick Tattigui is actually another one. I actually knew his dad, and I've watched Nick grow up. He's from Richmond, Virginia. He's just gone over and signed a contract. But again, Mark had played at the highest level, and with all due respect, John Tattigui was able to pay the money to have Nick to have personal tutors and be able to go to every combine and, you know, summers in Europe to really set himself where he needed to be. And if he didn't have the money, I don't think he'd be where he is today.
Yes. So I mean, do you have like heartbreak stories as long as your arm about players that you've seen that really, in a meritocracy, would have been star players but just couldn't find their way to support themselves long enough to make the breakthrough?
Yeah, I've seen some very, very good players. I mean, there's a lot of players over here. Obviously, America's a bigger market, but I don't think that's any different than you would have in Scotland, Greg, to be quite honest with you. I mean, I've seen a lot of players in Scotland that I played with which were absolutely brilliant that never made it anywhere. And I think it was either drink or, you know, some other factor that saw them fall out of the game. I just think the American market is a little bit more cutthroat because it's all about the money. So I've seen a lot of kids wasted at the youth level based on the development side, just because either a player didn't have the money or it was about the coach, and, you know, the player never really got the ability to get seen. There's a lot of people still in the American game just now that really don't understand it, Greg. They've just been around since the 80s, and they remember they're still hanging on to the Beckenbauer and Pele years and the old NASL, right? But as the market matures, you're seeing a lot more influence from the, especially Hispanic side of the house. If you take a look at the under 21s and below for the US national squad, you'll see it's littered with basically guys who have transitioned to being American citizens, first or second generation. So I think as we start to see that influence come through, it's going to take another couple of generations before we really see it. But again, to your point, I'm seeing a lot of guys that never made it, a lot of players that were really good that either didn't get into college and then they just fell by the wayside, or really just couldn't afford to support themselves, because by the time you get to 21 and you're coming at a college, it's a different proposition, Greg. At 18 years old, you've still got 2 or 3 years. But when you come out at 21, 22 and you've got a degree behind you where you could be earning 50 or 60 grand a year, now, do you want to chase it for 3 or 4 years? Well, no. Can you imagine going for your first job interview at the age of 26?
Yes.
You know?
And you're telling me there are quite a lot of players that get caught between that horrible middle ground of turning their back on their dream of playing football or doing what would probably be the sensible thing and following a professional career based on their academic career.
I'd go one stage worse, and this is where that Scottish honesty comes in, Greg. There's a lot of players that are promised a dream, and they do that at a very young age. You know, even from the 12 and 13-year-old, they're promised the fact that they'll get scholarship or go to a Division 1 college, even if the kid doesn't have the ability. And they sell them this dream up until the age of 18 or 19, where they've got the academy system where they have 3 teams, Greg. 3 teams. They'll have a Premier team, a second team, and a Classic team. And the Classic guys are basically rec players. But again, it's all about the paradigm and the amount of players you have in your programme, because it's all about the money. They promise these teams that they're never going to make. That's where the Prep for Pro programme comes in as well, because what we want to do is we want to help the players that have come out of college that have a very good degree, right, that could play at a decent level. We'll put them through the development, but what we'll also do is we'll give you an honest appraisal. The guys that we're bringing across, the Jim Leightons, the Barry Smiths, the Stuart Taylors of this world, they've been at the level. They know what it's like. So if I'm sitting down with you at the age of 18, like they used to do with YTS, and they'd say, I'm sorry, son, you're not good enough, right? They're actually doing you a favour, because at 18 years old, you can go and get a trade, you can go back to school. Although you've just missed 2 years of your life, they at least cut you loose, right? Plus we had junior football and other ways to make it back up the ranks. In America, at 21, 22 years old, do you really want to be chasing it till you're 26 and 27 and then trying to start your life? So that's the other thing we bring to the table. It's going to be an honest, unabridged evaluation of the level. And at 23, 24 years old, after 10 days of going through training and seeing you on and off the field, we're going to be able to tell, Greg, because if these guys can't do that like they do in Europe, you know, they're not going to be able to do it over here. Does that make sense?
Yes. So what is the first point of contact that if there's a player listening to this podcast and they want to get in contact with you because they're interested in your program, what happens? Do they get in contact via email or via your website? What happens then?
If they want to get in contact with us, and there's a couple of ways to do it, I would send them through the website. We also have on the website our overview of the program. It's fairly extensive and it tells you what you're going to get. And again, I would encourage them to read through it. It's not for everybody, Greg, but what I would encourage them to do is go on the website and apply. The one thing that we're doing is we're not making it about the numbers like we said before, Greg. It would be contradictory of me to tell you that we're trying to bring in 150 players and do what we've done, what everybody else is doing, giving everybody a number. We're only going to work with 50 players, Greg, and it may even be less than that. So there's an application process. Not every player is going to make it through. Right, so if you've got the minerals to actually make it the professional level, then we'll bring you in and we'll work with you, right? Because to be quite frank, there's certain players that wouldn't. So I would encourage them to go out to the website. If they've got any questions, my telephone number's on there. You can talk to me or my business partner. We'll be happy to walk you through what it is that we're going to do. The fee for the programme, basically we'll cut it to bare wood. There's no profitability there. We're covering the players' accommodation, which is the other thing they don't do over here. We're covering their accommodation. We're covering a portion of their food. We're putting them up at the Holiday Inn, which is 4-star, and we're giving them facilities for free. And we're giving them their training kit. So we're not charging fee for service there to make money on the players. It's truly about the players and ensuring that they get the best crack at it. So look at the website, look at the deck. I would go to the Facebook page that we've got that we're getting up. We've only been online for maybe 2.5 weeks, so we're still building it out. But feel free to lift the phone. I mean, we want to be as personable as possible, and we want to answer the questions truthfully. And then I would say, just apply. See if you're good enough to get through the application process, and if you are, come on up for the 10 days and see where you fit.
So people shouldn't necessarily worry about the finances first of all. They should apply for the program, get in touch, and find out if they're. Because actually the process of finding out if they're of the quality to be eligible for the programme should tell them a lot about their chances of making it.
That's exactly right. That's the thing that people miss, and this is why it's going to be difficult for the Americans to absorb it, Greg, because they're used to paying their money first and then being told, right? What we are doing is we're asking them to apply first. So we'll already tell them if they made that cut, don't spend your money, don't come up, because we don't think you're at that level, right? Now, that can be hard for people to take, especially Americans, because they like to hear only positive. That's why the American kids nowadays, everybody's given a trophy, Greg, which I don't agree with. So we're going to cut them loose at the first instance. Now, if we look at their pedigree, we're going to call their references. We're going to talk to them. If we get a feeling that the boy has the potential and the chance to make it, then what we'll say is put your money up to cover your expenses. The other thing we'll have to do as well, the target market we've got, we're looking at college players as well to try and help them. College players can't be offered money because they would lose their eligibility, Greg. They need to keep their amateur status. It's kind of like the Olympics, right? You can't play a professional player. So we can't pay players because then it would be seen as being professional, Greg. So we can't foot the bill for them. And that's the other thing as well. So you've got a certain percentage of players that are entitled, quote unquote, because I'm good enough, I don't need to pay. Well, that comes later on, son. You're going to have to meet us halfway. You're going to have to pay your expenses to come up there, go through the process, and then at the end of it, if we think they're good enough, then what we'll do is we'll cover your expenses from them because you are good enough. Does that make sense, Greg? So it's a step-by-step process. We've thought a way to do it comprehensively.
So you would be doing...
I had a question. Sorry, Greg. I had a question. I'm looking at the website just now, pretforpro.com, and I'm looking at the list of the coaches. They are Stuart Taylor, Barry Smith, Jim Layton. These are all familiar names to us over here in the UK. How does taking these coaches from Scotland to the UK, how are they different from the coaches? Like the coaches actually from the States themselves?
That's a fantastic question, Grant. And now you really have solidified the fact that Greg is the beauty of this organisation. That's a great question. So that is the unique selling proposition. The USSF license its coaches the same as FIFA do. But the licensing structure has definitely changed over the years because, again, remember, we had a lot of people who maybe played the game in the 60s, but they're not mature with the game, Grant, right? There's a lot of guys that got the licenses that bill themselves as being top coaches, but realistically, it's the same as any accreditation. Just because, you've got a library card, that doesn't make you Yoda. So what we have is we have guys who've been entrenched in the game. So let's take a look at Jim Leighton, for instance, right? You're going to find it very hard to find somebody throughout the world who has got his pedigree. So if we've got a goalkeeper that comes in and goes through the course, not only will the player know he's being looked at by somebody that knows what they're doing, they're getting looked at by the best, right? So
exactly.
he's phenomenal. So that's what we're doing. We're giving you the, and again, our coaches are FIFA Pro licensed coaches, something that they don't do in the States, right? So the USSF takes it up through its own accreditation system. The college system actually has its own individual accreditation system, the NSCAA. So you've got a lot of coaches out there that are billing themselves as being top coaches, and even former players, right? Now, I'm a former player, Greg. Grant, did I ever play at the level where I could go in and tell you if the guy's international class or not? I could have a crack at it, but I don't think I'd be the right level. So that's the big difference, Grant. The other thing as well is we're looking at people looking at Google, right? So we want them to go out and Google these coaches. A lot of people heard about Wolverhampton Wanderers for the first time when they beat Liverpool. So did they go out and Google it? Did they look at the game? They did. The other thing as well is we've got a lot of guys that are in the States like myself who don't really come from America. They're Dutch, German, French, Costa Rican, Spanish. All of those guys are all over here playing. So they've got a pedigree in the game. They understand the game. They grew up with the game, but they just don't have the outlets that they would have back home. And that's the piece we want to close the door on. So that's a great question.
So are you providing opportunity not just for players, but also for coaches or from people from different ethnic backgrounds or different football cultures to bring their experience to the piece, as it were, and contribute to what you're doing?
Yeah, that's exactly what we're doing. So, if you take a look at the people that are on the website, we've got some scouts and we've got some agents out there as well. All of the people that are out there are people that I've played with or grew up with throughout the game. The one thing they share in common is not only have they played at the highest level or been at the highest level within football, within their spheres, but you'll see diversity there, Greg. You get the American national former head coach who's worked with the everything within the US national squad, from the first team right the way through under 17s. He's worked in the college game. We've got David Otley, who sets up the matches. He actually was just in Gibraltar. He set up the Japan under 17 game that we had that Scott Gemmell took the team over to. They drew nothing each with Japan. So he was in Gibraltar because he set all that up. He's a FIFA match agent. We've Jose Rodriguez, who actually worked with Ghent. So we're bringing all those together. We're bringing that experience together to give the players the best opportunity to learn on and off the field, but be exposed and have that opportunity. It's not everybody's going to go to Scotland or everybody's going to go to England. We've got the secondary markets covered as well. Spain, we've got South America. Walter Bustamante from Peru, he just came on board as well. Walter played with me in college and was with the New York Metro Stars, the former New York teams from the MLS. So he's just joined as well. So it's a great question, Greg. We want them exposed at every level. We want to take that potential and fit the market to the player, and then give them that ability to talk to those guys one-on-one, really have the ability to sit down and talk to them over the 10 days and really get that feel for what it's going to be like, rather than just show up, pay your money, here's a number. You get to see the guy when he throws the cones down, or he has his speech at the end of the game and you never see him again. It's a bit different.
So
the coaches side, that's the other thing you touched on. We've had a lot of coaches, when we've engaged with the players, say they want to come up and audit the course. And that's what they're going to do. We've got some coaches that have already booking they want to come up and spend the week. Not that their player will be there, but they want to meet the coaches as well and see how the training is done. So it's an education for them.
And do you see it as a franchise model or something that can be expanded? Or I mean, how do you see Prep for Pro developing over time?
So we've originally put a 3-phased program together. The first phase is for American-based players, for the American market and going to Europe. That's what we said, and that's what we set out to do. That's what we want to do. We want to help be that bridge for the players who are graduating from college and helping them get to where they need to be within the United States or even in Europe if they're eligible. From the phase 2 perspective, it's helping the American players come over helping the European players come over and navigate the European market. So there's a lot of people that are doing the programs where they'll take players that have been released and help them get to college. But that's where it stops, right? After college, the player's on his own. He went through the program. That's great. He got his degree. Well done. We want to do soup to nuts. So we'll help you get to America. And then the second part, which is phase one, we'll help you after you graduate get to the professional level if that's where you want to be. So we'll see you through the college years, continue your development, and then get you moved in the right direction afterwards. Then phase three of the programme is really working with the coaches side. Jim Layton's working on curriculum just now for the SFA, where it will be a development programme for coaches. And we want to do the same thing. We want to help the coaches understand and develop their players. So when our players are playing in college, if a coach has been through our programme, we can get a little bit more comfort that the boy's going to continue his development rather than just getting into a college programme and just being a number. So we want to help them with that, again, from soup to nuts, player development, coach development. So that's really where we are, mate. That's the three phases that we've put on the table. And we're very much in the throes of phase one.
Right, I see. And I mean, where are we going to find our players? Where are we going to get the 50 players with the golden ticket to go and study with you for 10 days?
Yeah, so what we're looking at is we're looking at the college programs. As we've said, the network that we have is fairly extensive. We have the club game, where we have the youth clubs in the United States, 18, 19 years old, people are graduating. You have the amateur leagues here, like Central Virginia Soccer Association, where Partizan Richmond plays. They have 80 teams, and they've got 6 or 7 divisions. And they've got a Premier Division, which is a lot of guys that were ex-pro, a lot of guys that played Division 1 in college and just never went anywhere further. So that's another hotbed as well. So college is the primary market. Help that player that's in college in his junior and senior year navigate where he would be, the same as a headhunter would do based on his degree. You've got big companies coming into colleges today, Bank of America sitting down in job fairs and saying, look, you're getting ready to graduate, son. We see you've got a 3.0 grade point average. You're going to graduate with honours. Why not come and work with us? Well, what we're going to do is be that what you would call that showcase. We're going to allow that player come and sit down. If he's one of the top 50, we'll bring in the scouts. We'll bring in the agents. We'll let the players be looked at, and then hopefully get them signed off right then and there.
So will you be actively looking for players to apply as well as sitting back and waiting for them to apply?
Yeah, it's a proactive and a reactive campaign. The proactive is getting ready to kick into high gear. The problem is getting our name out there, Greg. So the biggest problem is there's a lot of people that, quote-unquote, pseudo-do what we do. There's a lot of people that run summer camps. There's a lot of people that do, player transfer programs to colleges in the States. There's a lot of people that, a lot of clubs that set up these camps where they're supposed to be, quote-unquote, ID camps. Right?
Yes.
But realistically, it's fee for service. I can give you another story. There was the local club that we have here just had their tryouts, and they had 150 players show up for 3 days. 150 players, Greg, showed up. They all paid $150 out their own pocket, showed up, and basically they get put through a small training session, and then they played games for 3 days. How are you going to be able to tell who those players are? So Our proposition is getting our name out there and helping differentiate us from the other programs that exist today, and that's the proactive side.
So how many players, just to give fans or younger players an idea, how, on the basis of 150 players turning up for a trial, for a 3-day trial, how many players realistically could you comprehensively evaluate in the process of 3 days with a good setup there? How confident would you be about the numbers you could have given a fair appraisal to after that point?
God's honest truth, none.
Really?
You probably already know the player that you wanted to sign before he came in, because the chances of you getting a really, you're talking about 3 days, Greg. You're talking about game situations, right? And I know guys that have showed up to games who are absolutely brilliant and have a stinker. That's why we're doing a 10-day program, Greg. We want them to train. We want to see them off the field. We want to see what their habits are mentally as well as physically. If you're just going to show up for 2 or 3 days and pay your money to play in a couple of games, depending on the players you play with, Greg, and the team that you're stuck on, you're only as good as the players you play with. That's the thing about football, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's the whole point. That's why we want to see them train for an extended period of time. We're going to put them through an actual week of training. I don't think these ID programs are anything but moneymakers. And that's the difference. We're not there to make the money. I mean, if we did, we'd set up tryouts and charge $150 and just call ourselves something different. We're not really trying to do that. What we're really trying to do is develop players, right? So within that 10 days that you're there, you'll go away a better player. You'll have learned something either in the off-field sessions about how you should take care of yourself, or you'll get nuggets of wisdom which happen because you're training with top professionals 5 days, right? So that feedback's going to be constant, Greg. When you go into a trial situation here with 150 players, they don't talk to you. You just play. They might shout, "Good ball, son," or after the game they'll say, "You had a good game," or "What was wrong with that guy beating you?" They're not going to give you valid feedback, Greg, because I've never seen you before, mate.
Yes. Yeah, and they wouldn't be able to tell what your general level was.
Nope, not at all. So I don't think they really do that to actually evaluate players. And it's the same criticism I've heard about the MLS combines. You know, most of the players that go down to the combines have already been signed. They're just go down kicking the tyres and making sure the boys what they think he is. That's it.
Mm-hmm. And can you just explain, just for laymen or for people that are not familiar with the American system, what a combine actually constitutes?
Yeah, so what happens is they call it a combine because they're doing a couple of different things. They bring all of the clubs come together. So think of it as like a release trial, right? So Scotland just released 150 players, and you're seeing these things pop up now where they bring those 150 players and they put a couple of bounce games on for them, and then they contact all the clubs and they tell all the clubs to come and take a look.
So this is what we'd call exit trials is what we would call.
The same kind of thing, but the combines that they put together are players who are invited by MLS clubs as well as the boys who have graduated from college who have been identified. So all of these players get special invites and they fly in from all over the United States and they come in. And I think this year it was in the West Coast. I think it was out Los Angeles way. And what they do is they put the boys through their paces, right? They play games and they do some bits. They time them over a certain, 100-yard sprint, go run, and they basically rank these players, and then they get offered contracts.
So,
right?
So are these players who are invited? Is this still fee for service? Are they paying to attend these combines?
Yeah, in some instances, these boys are paying to come out. Yeah, they'll pay money to fly out West Coast and go through the combine. In other instances, if the player is really, really good, Greg, then the boy will be covered. You know what I mean?
Right,
but there's no real promise, Greg. There's no real promise, right? That's why I'm saying the boys that they want to sign have already been identified. And in most instances, these boys already have an agent. So that's the other thing as well. That's why we say it shouldn't be who you know. So if the boy has an agent, chances are the agent's probably footing some of the bill for him to go out there, right?
Yes.
And that's his piece of the puzzle. That's that benefactor portion. But if you're going out there and you don't have an agent, Greg, there's nobody advocating for you. There's nobody whispering in the ears. There's nobody pointing you out. And that's the boy that slips through the net because he doesn't have and hasn't been identified or doesn't have the money to get himself an agent to get moving. What does he do?
So what he does now is he goes on the Prep for Pro programme and hopes to be selected in those golden 50.
There you go. That's it. And for anybody that's listening, that wasn't a setup, by the way. Just so you know.
No, it definitely wasn't a setup. I can vouch for that. But realistically, that is the answer to that question. Yes.
That is the answer to the question. Yeah. So at the end of the day, the boy would pay. That we would already do the pre-filtering stuff. The boy would pay his $1,700, $1,800. That would cover his accommodation, which is, quite frankly, I'll give you the cost breakdown. It's about $1,000 for a player to stay there. It's about $80, $90 a day, a night to stay at the accommodation that we're at. So that's half of his fee gone right there. We're covering the training equipment, the Hummel equipment that we've got. We're signing a contract with them. So that's another $50 to $60 right there for shorts, tops and socks, 2 pairs. Of each, and then we've got other stuff. We give them the water. We've got trainers on site in case they get injured, and then we've got to pay for the actual conference rooms. So for the off-field stuff. So realistically, when you take into account that we've got to pay for these European coaches to come over, it's all expenses, Greg. There's nothing left behind. There's no profit margin there, mate.
Yes.
The way that we would turn a wee bit of money is if we can start to get sponsorship money coming in. That's the most important part. That's what we're looking for. And with us being a first-year programme, if anybody wants to take the chance to do this, I'm telling you right now, once this takes off, Greg, you're not going to get a chance to get a seat. So we only have a specific period of time. So you asked about franchising. This is not like we're going to have 50 different Prep for Pro programs all throughout the year. We're only going to do it at that one time a year because that's the window when we get access to the coaches. Because literally speaking, pre-season starts the week after those coaches leave. So when our Prep for Pro program's over, if any of the players are good enough, they're going to leave straight from our camp and go to pre-season with clubs in Europe.
Right, I see.
There's no delay. Yeah.
And which clubs do you expect to be kind of represented at your 10 days? Who will be actually running the rule over the players that you've selected?
Well, we already know that Barry Smith's going to be there. He's a manager of East Fife, and I'll do a shameless plug for him. Since he's come in 12, 13, 14 weeks ago, he's taken the club from second bottom to third in the league, and they just beat Livingston again.
Yeah, a full-time team in a part-time league, as they say.
And again, he doesn't have a massive budget, so programs like this are really going to speak to him because he can unearth a player who maybe went to America. And David Weir's a great example of that. David Weir went to Evansville in the United States and actually played as a striker. I don't know if you know that. And then when he went back to Scotland, funneled his way back into Falkirk, and the rest is history. So there are players that have come over here and can make it. And Barry will be one of those managers who will be standing, putting boys through their paces, but he'll have first opportunity to sign a player. And hopefully East Fife will get to the championship next year. I'll keep my fingers crossed. He'll tell you one game at a time, but hopefully they'll be there. Stuart Taylor's another one. Wolves are sitting precariously above the relegation zone, but a championship club in England, and they're looking for good players. The boys that can come in and come through, Stuart's definitely aware of Aston Villa and Wolves' level and standard down there. So if he finds a player, he's going to be there to sign him. And of course, you've got Aberdeen represented by Big Jim. You know, he's got extensive connections. So if the player's good enough, we'll figure out where he fits in the pyramid. Even within the United States, John Kowalski's team just won the PDL last year, which is the Player Development League. We've got connections with DC United, with Dave Casper, the GM, who I played indoor with, and John coached as a player. So we've got those connections, and we'll find the boy the right place to play. Richmond Kickers, Adrian Clulo. If we get a goalkeeper who's definitely good enough, he'll lift the phone and talk to Lee Cowlishaw, and I'm sure he'll say, look, we missed this one, Lee. Let's take a look at him next year. Let's bring him down and have a go. So I think we've got it covered extensively.
Yep. And you've mentioned that you've got contacts in other territories as well, in South America and continental Europe and other clubs and areas too.
Yeah, so we've covered the secondary markets, as they call them. So Eastern Bloc, we've got that covered. And working with some other guys, David Ortley is over in Central Europe. So he's covering Spain and France. He's got massive amount of connections, being a FIFA match agent as well as being sanctioned in Spain. Again, we've got the former Gibraltar manager he's working, Davy Wilson's working with us as well, so he knows people in the amateur game. And then from South America, Jose Rodriguez, who just had another player signed for Ghent in the middle of the week. So he's got South America covered as well as what we would call Scandinavia, you know, Norway, Sweden. Barry played in Iceland for a while and knows the Valur setup. So the football community is really small, is what you find. And if you've got a player that's good enough, it doesn't take but 2 phone calls to get the player where he needs to be, especially if he's got the right people vouching for him. And that's the key piece. If he's been through our programme, we will have seen him play. We'll have video footage of what he's done, and he'll be able to call on somebody like Jim Layton. Is the boy good enough? When Jim says he's good enough, then I think you can take that to the bank.
Yeah, because he's obviously won numerous trophies, a European Cup Winners' Cup, many international caps, played for Manchester United in an FA Cup final. You know, it's a long list of achievements in his career, isn't it?
I mean, Scotland over.
You know what the funny thing that we miss about this, Greg? We talk about those guys and what they've done, and I have to tell you, having worked, and I didn't know Jim before we started this endeavour. I actually met him through Alan Rankin, who used to be the Wales physio, who's a Scotland under-21 physio. But the one thing I'll tell you, they're absolutely brilliant people, Greg. That's the one thing that I miss, and there's no surprise that most of the people that are on that list that you named, coaches-wise, as well as the backroom staff, that they're just really wonderful human beings, and they really care about players. If you met Jim in the street, he's non-pretentious. You'd never know it was Jim Leighton. You'd
Yes.
probably recognise him, but that's the sort of thing that we bring to the table. We really care about the player and the people that I'm working with, that's all they're interested in. Stuart Taylor, phenomenal human being. Barry Smith, I don't think you'll get a more genuine guy. It takes him half an hour to smile, but he is very smart. He's very articulate, well put together, and just a great, human being, which is the piece that we miss. We can talk about their accolades and what they've done, but just the people that they are is really what the boys are going to get when they decide to come to this programme. They're going to meet genuine human beings that are going to sit down and talk to them for an hour and 45 minutes, not about what they've done, right? Because it's not about them. It's about the player. It's what they think about the player. That's the big difference. I see a lot of programmes out there that are using players' reputations just to bring people in the front door. We're focused on the players. And that's, again, I'm telling you, I'm not paying these guys massive amounts of money to come over. I swear to God, I'm not doing it because I don't have it. We don't have the money. They're coming over and they're doing this, one, because they're friends of mine, and the other point is they really believe in the programme and that there's players out there that are being missed. This is their opportunity to give back. Now, if Barry finds a player who's good enough, obviously he's going to get to sign that player before anybody else gets a chance to look at him, which is good for the player because he already knows the manager, and the other thing is he already knows the manager's a good guy who wouldn't steer him wrong. That's the other piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, so people are getting to put faces to names at a very, very early stage.
Well, my thing is this: if the player's there and it's a 1-to-8 ratio, that player's going to leave with some friends in some pretty high places. Not that he's going to be phoning Jim up every Tuesday night to find out how he's doing, but you'll form a relationship with somebody who would normally be at arm's length. And that's the difference, right? So for coming in, you're getting to spend time with them. You're going to eat with them. You're going to talk to them on and off the field. You're going to have a laugh with them. You're going to get to know a little bit more about Jim Leighton, the guy who's not the goalkeeper. It's just a person. And that's the difference because that's what the game is. And I swear to God, both of you guys, that's what's missing in the game today. That's exactly what's missing. We have no characters in Scotland. If you want to point the fact that Scotland's going through a little bit of a dip just now, I'm hoping they bring back the characters to the game because they need it. It's too sanitary now. You know what I mean? The boys go into the dressing room, they do their job and they go home. There is no camaraderie. And I can tell you right now, that's the success that Barry Smith brings to the table because he has a dressing room of players who will kill for him. And that's the gap. That's what we want to build with the programme. When you come to that programme, you're going to leave the guys who you met as coaches that are leaving as friends. But see, also the other boys that you went through this training with, they're going to be like teammates to you. You're going to have another support network you can reach out to and you can really work with as your career starts to take hold.
Yes. Well, that sounds pretty good. It sounds like anyone who's listening, wherever they are, if they fancy a tryout in the United States, then Prep for Pro, that's where you need to go and look.
Yeah, so and you mentioned, John, that of course you've just launched the Facebook page that's so that everybody just search Prep for Pro and you put it's the number for four, so Prep for Pro. You're also on Twitter at Prep for Pro, and the website, of course, is prep4pro.com. So prep the number 4pro.com. You can find out all the information there. But that's really fascinating to hear, about all that gap in that sort of funny sort of middle ground or sort of no man's land in American game, and it's fascinating to see how this will develop. And I'm sure there'll be a benefit. Obviously, as you mentioned, you've got guys like Barry Smith and Stuart Taylor who are involved in clubs here in Europe, and how it can benefit everybody. Really gets the benefit for the players. And one of the things I thought is you mentioned the timing of it. It's like once when the program runs, it then goes straight into pre-season. So it's almost like the equivalent of like in universities or stuff. If you've maybe just fallen short of getting entry into university, they might offer you the summer school where you do. To get yourself up to speed and make up for some missing marks that you might have, and then just seamlessly going into a pre-season with a team. So that fascinates me. It looks as it kind of just adds to the positivity of the program. It can help get them really up to speed. so that when they go into these pre-seasons, they're hit the ground running. And was that a specific part of the thinking for the
Yeah, so when we said prep for pro, we mean it. I mean, our ethos is to guide the player and get them prepared to go into the professional game. There's no point in him being with us for 10 days, doing really well, getting his fitness up, getting his touch up, getting his sharpness up, learning all these things, and then waiting for 3 months before he goes somewhere. So the idea is that we want them to go straight, and that's the other thing as well. You have these trials and combines where people come in and they say, yeah, you did well, we'll let you know by email in 6 days if you've made it. We don't want to do that. We want to be able to tell the player right then and there, you've made it, we're going to sign you, we're going to book your ticket, you're going home with Barry, we're going to get you sorted out. You need to figure out your logistics and that kind of thing. You know what I mean? But that's the easy part, right? You've done the hard part and you're getting the contract. We just need you to go over and sign. And that's the piece, right? Because it's like waiting for Christmas, right? You've been given your present and then you need to wait for 6 weeks before you can open it. We don't want that. We want you to show up and then just go right into your career. Now, for the boys that don't make it, at least at that point in time, they'll know, right? But they've not wasted time. We're not keeping them hanging on and that kind of thing. So the idea is, like you said, to make it be a seamless transition. We've prepared you for your professional, and that's you now starting. So that's why we're saying the timing needed to be right for everybody, and more importantly, it needed to be right for the player.
So,
sorry, Greg, on you go.
So just to sum this up, if we were to try and create a kind of elevator concept, if you like, for prep for pro, is it really a finishing school for aspiring young footballers? Is that where it fills the gap? Does it?
Well, see, that's the thing. I don't want to make it that one thing. That's what makes us different, right? So we're not telling you you're coming in and after 10 days you're going to be a professional player, right? You might have a player that comes in that's 19 years old who is in college just now and is going to come to our program for the next 3 years because he wants to be a professional player. So we'll train him, we'll give him the time, and we'll make sure we put the effort in so that when he comes out, that's where he needs to be. So that's the finishing school piece of it. But it's also a tryout opportunity, right? So as Grant said, the boy missed the bus. Maybe he couldn't make it to the tryout, or maybe he went. It was one of those 150 players that never get a chance to get looked at, right? So we're going to put him through that. We're going to give him those 10 days to get looked at, and then he can go straight into the professional ranks if he's good enough, right? Plus the other thing as well is if we've got a player in phase 2 who's coming over for Europe, they're going into the college game, so we're going to give them that background. We're going to help them acclimatise. We're going to give them a telephone number that his mother can call on a Tuesday night if she's worried, or we can give the boy a support network when it comes to money. Maybe money's not getting through, or he needs a little bit of help with his studies. We'll be that support network for him. But again, he's going to be with our program right the way through, and then when he goes professional, then that's the next piece. So I don't want to pigeonhole us as being one thing, because if I could tell you I can take a player and then turn him around in 10 days and tell you he's going to be a top pro, I'd be lying to you. And that's the one thing that we're not going to do. So it's an evaluation program. It's a preparatory program, so we'll develop you as a player, as well as it's an opportunity as a tryout to get seen. So when you think about the value for money there, it's the three things in one.
Right, okay.
Phase 2 that you mentioned there about European players going across the culture, so that sounds like a really exciting development to come. I'm sure there'll be a lot of there's a lot more players that are thinking about going across to the US at a very young age to do a education, to go and try and get into that college system. So knowing that there's maybe people there like yourselves who can, as you say, help them acclimatise, so that they're not just sort of thrown in at the deep end and it's sink or swim. That sounds like a really exciting thing to come in as you said, phase 2.
Yeah, but again, it goes back to the same thing. It's how do you know if you like something? Well, you try it yourself. If you're a wee bit you don't have the opportunity to try it yourself, you ask somebody that's done it. Yeah. And that's really the concept we're using.
Yeah, and you've done it, so that's they'll know that it's you've done that journey. You went across there.
That's the reason why we're doing it. I mean, the concept came about in talking to people that kind of like myself. Barry went off and he stayed in Scotland and played with Dundee and was a legend there. And we reconnected maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and I brought some players over. And when we reconnected, it was my life was divergent from his, but again, we still shared the same thing. You know what I mean? It was the passion for helping the players and that. So when somebody's done it and they've been there, and that gap was recognised, part of that conversation with him, it's a case of, well, why don't we fill that gap? It doesn't need to be about the money. We can make it about the players. The money will come later on. you know, and it'll come through sponsorship and third parties. But if we make it about the players and helping them get to where they need to be, then I'm a firm believer, guys, and I know you know this for your small company and what you're building with your magazine, which is brilliant, by the way. You know, no, we've put it on our website, mate. I mean, there's not enough talk about football, which is meaningful talk, right, in my opinion. But, you know, my thing is this. If you do things for the right reasons and you stick with it, then you'll get where you need to be. And I think you'll do the same thing with this show. I really believe it.
Thank you.
So, well, I think that brings us quite neatly to the end. John, thanks very much. Partizan Richmond got a game this weekend.
Yeah, we slumped to a 5-1 defeat for the winners of the league last year. We play against a Bosnia, they're called. The team is a lot of Bosnian immigrants that came over and they started their own club in Bosnia in the Premier League, so we play them on Sunday. The game's at 10 o'clock. So.
Well, good luck with that. We'll try and keep an eye out for the result there. And of course, it's prepforpro.com, and as we said, it's on Facebook and Twitter. So, John, thanks very much for taking the time to join us this week on the How to Watch Football podcast. Greg, once again,
Thank you.
And yeah, we'll be back next week with episode 5 of the How to Watch Football podcast. You can follow us on Twitter at HTW Football. You can also find us on Facebook. Again, it's just HTW Football. And of course, the website, howtowatchfootball.co.uk, for expert insight and analysis. So, guys, thanks very much once again, and thanks for listening.